Okay, so Hyperbolas Notes Day 2 is all about just more hyperbolas. So I'm going to go through the whole process of completing the square one time. If you think you know how to do this, go ahead and try it on your own. Okay, this is the paper we picked up today. So right now, I already know this is a vertical hyperbola because the y squared is the positive term, and that's what's going to come first. For those of you that weren't here yesterday, you're not used to this as much unless you're thinking back to last year. With ellipses, the x's always went first. With hyperbolas, it can be either one. So you're grouping whatever the positive squared term is, and then we got a factor. So if I factor, just factoring is like dividing. So 54 divided by 9, that's 6. And you need to do now completing the square with the 6. So we got to go 6, half it, box it, square it, wherever you see space on your page. And this is the part that in the beginning I think a lot of people got confused about, and then I know at this point I think you're a little bit better. Did I so-called add 9 pounds to the left? No. It's a 9 inside parentheses being multiplied to another 9. So how do you balance that out?
81.
Yeah. So I'm going to add 81. Okay, for this group, I'm going to divide out the negative 4. That's going to make that negative 2x, because positive 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. And then you're going to do the whole half it, box it, square it thing again. And then you're not adding a 1. You're adding negative 4 times 1, which would be a negative 4. All right. If you've forgotten how to do this square part, this is why we have the box. Okay? We're going to go y plus 3 squared. Minus 4 parenthesis x. Go to the box. Minus 1 squared. And then on the right, you're going to need to do a little bit of number crunching. If that's not really your strong suit, this is kind of how I look at this. I start with the big positive number, 81, and then I subtract 41 from it, and I get 40. Okay, and then 40 minus 4 is 36. And I don't want it to equal 36. What do I want it to equal?
1.
1. So I divide both sides by 36. And then you're just going to go ahead and do a quick 9 divided by 36. That's 4. So write that number in the bottom. And then do the same thing over here. 36 divided by 4 is 9. And now we have this thing in standard form. Remember, the y is first. This is vertical, so you're still starting over here with the center. So you got to start with the 1. So it would be 1 comma negative 3. So I'm going to change the view here so I can see everything. Okay, so 1, negative 3. And then my A with ellipses, A was biggest. With hyperbola, I don't know why this control shift button is here. I'm just going to hope it doesn't mess everything up. So A is 2. So which direction am I going to go 2 in? Vertically or horizontally?
Vertically.
Yeah, because it's underneath the y, so I go vertically, up 2, that's a vertex, down 2, that's a vertex. Oops, I went more than 2. Be careful about that. So since 4 is the first number underneath here, 4 is the same as a squared, so I square rooted 4. So my vertices are going to be 1, negative 1, and 1, negative 5. Okay, so once you get A is 2, see how that was underneath the Y, and that's a vertical, that's like our vertical movement. From the center, you're going to go up 2 to get one vertex, and you're going to go down 2 to get the other vertex. And then you're going to write down those points. You can also think of it as adding and subtracting 2 from the Y value. So I want to actually do that first this next time. What's B? 3, right? Because 9 right here, that's the same as b squared. So b is 3. So I want to write the points first, and then we'll plot them. So to the x, I'm going to add and subtract 3. So 1 minus 3 is -2. Keep the y value the same. And then 1 plus 3 is 4. So you can come up with the points without even graphing. Some of you may find that easy. I think that's a rare individual. But everybody's different. So here's a covertex. There's another covertex. Remember that we graph it by, man, I'm just being really sloppy today. Okay, we graph it by making this little box here with your vertices and covertices. And why do we make that box? So we can draw the diagonals, which are the asymptotes. So it's from the corner of the box through the middle, and then you go through the vertices. Now, in the very beginning of this problem, we predicted that this would be a vertical hyperbola, and it is. You can see that it's like up and down. Those are the two curves. Okay, to do the focus, we need to determine C. Now remember, for hyperbolas, you have this formula. With ellipses, there was a minus there, but with hyperbolas, there's a plus right here. And so a squared and b squared, that's just our 4 plus 9, the denominators from the standard form. And that's 13, so C is square root of 13. And am I going to go left and right or up and down? Up and down, same direction as the vertices, which would be the y value. So I'm even going to write this one before I graph it. So if I'm going up and down, you're going to add and subtract to the y value. Square root of 13 would be a little more than 3 and a little less than 9. So we'd have focus here and here. All right. Uh-huh.
So how do you, like, looking at it not in standard form or even looking at it in standard form, how do you know it's a hyperbola?
Okay. In standard form, there's a minus in the middle as opposed to a plus. When it's multiplied out like this, see how there's a positive number y squared and a negative something x squared. One of them's positive and one of them's negative. That's how you know early on that it's going to be a hyperbola.
Okay, and so could we use that because the negative is the x, and we know that that's the horizontal hyperbola?
If this had been like negative 9y squared plus 4x squared, then it would have been horizontal.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Whichever one is the positive one, that tells you the direction. Exactly right. Okay, so that was kind of a recap of yesterday, and I know that was a tougher lesson than last week. So these, I think you're going to like a little bit more. All right, so it says, write the equation in standard form of the hyperbola with center 0, 0. And then, what does that say? Why can't I get this to move over here? The total length of the transverse axis. Remember transverse? We talked about this at the very end of the lesson. See that verse part? Those are the vertices. So it's telling you from vertex to vertex is 8. Okay, conjugate, see how there's a co there? That's talking about co-vertices. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph what we have. We don't have to, but it could help us with the problem. So if we graph the center at 0, 0, and if the if the transverse axis is along the x-axis, we're going to go left and right. How much to the left and how much to the right? If the total is 8. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a vertex. So I'm going to stop right here, and let's make sure we know what we know. Which type of hyperbola is this? Vertical or horizontal? Horizontal. Okay, so that means which goes first, the x or the y? The x. And there's a minus in the middle. Okay, and it always equals 1. Okay, since the center is 0, 0, we actually, that's pretty easy. We can just go minus 0. Would it have been okay if we had just written x squared and y squared? Sure. Okay, next time we may do that instead. All right, do we know anything else about the equation? The a value is how much? 4. Okay, this right here is a, and that's 4. So remember, a is always first. So a squared, 4 squared, that's going to be 16. So a squared is 16. If I swipe over here a little bit, it says that the total length of the conjugate axis is 10. So how far up and down to do the covertices? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a covertex, and really I only need 1. So which letter is this giving me, B or C? B. And B is 5, so B squared is 25, and that's what goes underneath the Y. Okay, and that's your answer. You still got to understand what you're doing, but it's actually a lot less work, I'm thinking. You don't have to draw it. You will never be graded on the graph here. If you can figure this out without graphing, you're fine. The grid will always be there, though, to help you. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why that came up. Okay, continuing on. Because the center is 3, negative 4, can I go ahead and start writing parenthesis x minus 3 squared? Do I know that x is first yet?
No.
No. You have to make sure you're looking at the rest of the information here to figure that out. Okay? It says the total length of the transverse axis is 6 units parallel to the y-axis. So until we're really sure what's going on, it's probably best to just go ahead and graph. So if the total length is 6, then I need to go just 3 units in either direction. And parallel to the y, would be up and down. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Again, if you can do this without graphing, great. All right, so now I do know which direction this is. This is vertical. I know that because the vertices are up and down. Okay, so I'm going to combine the fact that this is vertical with the center to go ahead and start writing my equation. Since it's vertical, I need to start with the y. And so that means I got to use the y value. And you always do opposite here, plus 4 squared. Then we're going to go x minus 3 squared. And always equals 1. Is there anything else I can figure out based off of this? I can, but just based off of what I've done so far. Yeah. So a is 3. So a squared, which is 9, is going to go first.
Why does the y go first?
The y is going first on this problem because the vertices are going up and down. And I know that because it said the length of the transverse axis, those are the vertices, parallel to the y-axis. So y-axis is up and down. Okay, conjugate's 12, so half that, we're going to go left and right 6. You don't have to really graph both of them. I think if you just graph one, that's enough. So b is 6. So what number should go underneath the x squared?
36.
36. How many of you like this better than yesterday's stuff? Anybody?
Me.
Okay. I want you to try example 3 on your own, and I'm going to go over it in just a minute. If you're done with example 3, go ahead and try 4. Okay, so after you graphed this, okay, then you had to figure out what the center was. On the others, they told us. And hopefully you figured out that the center was at negative 2, 4. It was just kind of like in the crosshairs of your vertices and your co-vertices. All right. How do I know this is vertical? Because the vertices are up and down from the center. Okay, so that means that y has to go first. So y minus 4, make sure you're picking the y value to go next to the y. And then this would be x plus 2 squared equals 1. You can also determine the a. A is 2, and b is 3. Yeah. So a squared, which is 4, should go first, and b squared, which is 9, should go second. So check your work with mine up here. And then let's do example 4 together, and this will be it for the day. Let's go ahead and plot the points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. This one has some nice symmetry on it, which makes it a little bit easier to figure out. Okay, what's the center? What point is exactly in between these 2 points?
3, 0.
You're close. You got the right numbers. 0, 3. And just with having the focus here horizontally, I know this is a horizontal hyperbola. All right, and so I would put the x first. And again, you could just put x squared there. You can go ahead and get all the, you can get all the information and then write your answer. I like to try to write my answer as I go. Okay, so this also tells me that c is 6, but 36 is not going to go either here or here. We need a squared and b squared. So if you look at this one last little piece of information, we know that we have a vertex at 1, 3. So a is really tiny here. A is only 1. So we're just going to put 1 squared, which is 1. And then we're going to use that formula. Okay, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So c squared would be 36, a squared would be 1. And so what is b squared equal to? 35. Now that's not a nice number if we were trying to graph this, but we're not. We're just trying to write the equation. So we write 35 and we're done.